In real estate, I have this very real impact on the families that I help. And it's a tremendous responsibility, and it's humbling, and it's a gift. And I absolutely love being the person that can kind of walk them from this point to this point and get them there safely and get them there unscathed.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, where we showcase the elite agents, rising stars, and strategic thinkers redefining what success looks like in the Northeast Florida real estate market. Today's guest didn't come from a traditional real estate background. In fact, she spent years captivating audiences as a professional singer, actress, performing around the world, and even portraying a real estate agent in a national commercial. But what started as a role eventually became reality, and she's made quite an impact. In just over 4 years, she's become a force in the St. Augustine and Jacksonville luxury markets, a solo agent, single mom, and a CEO of her own brand. She brings heart, grit, and polish to every transaction, whether she's hosting one of her signature luxury open houses or crafting a personalized home buying experience. Her clients feel seen, heard, and wowed. She's been named a 2024 5-star professional rising star, landed in the top 500 real estate Jacksonville producers, and most recently ranked number 55 in nearly 12,000 agents in Northeast Florida by the Jacksonville Business Journal. But beyond the accolades, she's building something deeper, a business that reflects her values, inspires her daughters, and delivers a level of service rarely seen in the industry. Let's welcome to the show, Michele Tremblay.
Hi.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Yes. A lot of stuff there in that intro from your bio. And your bio really actually wasn't like extensively long. You got a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To pack it in.
Tell us, I always like to, we were talking pre-show. I want the audience to resonate a little bit with you. Obviously, there's some very young agents. I had Willie Lane from Compass. He actually just got out of college and jumped into real estate. That's very rare.
Yeah.
Most people, we've had very highly successful people like yourself that literally had another career completely different than real estate and jumped into it. So I want you to, you have a communications degree from, if I recall, the University of Wisconsin.
Yes, and like a long time ago.
Yeah. Yes, we were talking, we didn't even have emails and those things. Tell us a little about what young Michele, what was your vision in getting that communications degree? Did you get into that? And just tell us a little bit about your career pre-real estate.
So, I had been acting and singing from a very young age, and all through grade school, middle school, high school, I thought I was going to be on Broadway singing and probably not dancing. That wasn't my forte, but the singing and acting. And when it came time to plan college, I kind of listened to all of the reasonable thinkers around me who were like, I don't know if you want a theater degree. What are you going to do with a theater degree? You need something to fall back on. Mm-hmm. And so we started talking about communications and public relations and how that is sort of relative, but I think parlay into several different kinds of careers.
Is the communication degree primarily a lot of those who... Same visualization. You wanted to get an acting. You mentioned Broadway. That communications is a fallback. They actually do.
Yes, they go and they get their theater degree, and reason be damned. And for me, I just was kind of impressionable, and I listened to everybody. And I'm not sorry that I did it. I think it serves me well. I think I'm a really strong communicator. But part of that probably does come from being a performer and trying to always, entertain people. So I did, for a very short time, consider doing like broadcasting and being a news anchor or something like that. And then I looked into that and I thought, well, you have to move to a very small town to be
put your dues
like
in.
This little teeny tiny person and do that.
Yeah.
And I thought, that doesn't really sound quite right either. So at some point I was working in advertising and also doing theater at the same time. And I was really burning out because I was working nonstop. I was rehearsing. acting, and then I was performing, and one of them had to go.
Right.
And so ultimately I chose performing, and that's when I kind of broke from corporate America and just took off and went cross country and did wherever they would have me. I did musical theater, and I sang on cruise ships for a couple of years, traveled the world. I saw more of, other countries than this country. It was a really great experience. And I would pinch myself and say, look at what I get to wake up and do every day. It was really a fun period of time. And although, singing on cruise ships that's pretty intense. It's a very microcosmic experience because you are but it was wonderful.
Isn't the entertainment staff is like the hierarchy of the right?
Oh, yeah,
You're getting pampered or whatever. You probably have a little bit better cabin than obviously the crew guys washing the windows and serving the food.
I was a rock star. Some of the dancers had to go and do the shuffleboard and run some of the activities, but
right.
No, they used to pay me to go fraternize with the public in the little lounges and things like that. So it was pretty well,
good. You meet some interesting people, I'm sure.
For sure.
All right, so doing that kind of fun stuff, and then you get into your corporate career, which you spent almost 18 years. Right?
Well, so I didn't really have a corporate career. What I did was I stayed in acting. And I was in voiceover specifically for a long time, and then I did some stage work. So when I was in Chicago for 10 years, that's what I did. I worked you work in fine dining because that is what most actresses do. And so I did that, and then I was on stage, and I was in commercials, and then I was the voice of a television station in Chicago, the public television station there. So, the coming up next on WTTW 11. This program.
Do you have nightmares about that? Do you have nightmares where that just rings through your head?
No, I loved it.
No, I mean I call them nightmares.
Just keep hearing
but
it,
even today, years and years ago, you're like, that just ring.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, but almost 15 years I did that. So I did that even when I moved to Southern California after I got married, and I was still doing it in Georgia. So that was a lot of fun. And then commercials and, playing the realtor. And it was fun. So that's what I did. And then, when I had my girls, I was primarily stay-at-home mom, but I still kept that up all those years. Had a little sound studio in my closet. And it was really, but the industry has changed immensely. And when it came time to deciding what to be when I grew up, which is I call when I got divorced, when I had to, figure out what do I do now? How am I going to pay my mortgage every month? How am I going to? So I tried to sort of get back into corporate America, maybe advertising, do whatever. And I had spent so little time doing that in the past, decade and a half, 2 decades, that everyone was like, oh, you're so cute. I don't know what to do with you. But you have, you have lots of world experience, but nothing that we can use. So it was difficult to find what my next was going to be until I, considered real estate.
Well, you can always go get a thing on Fiverr and do voiceovers. That's it.
No, thank you.
So if I recall, you mentioned your husband at the time brought you to Florida.
Yes, we were in southern Georgia, small town, Noonan, Georgia, and he was here on business and called me from the beach in February and said, I think I found our next spot. And I said, absolutely not. We're not moving. And then he brought me here, and I fell in love with it. I love Northeast Florida. I love that we still have seasons. I love that. I mean, I used to say, and legitimately, it took me about 9 months to meet an unhappy person. Like everybody here is just very, and I think obviously that has a little bit to do with the weather, the fact that you can be outdoors most of the time. You can, I really, and I was in Southern California too. I was in San Clemente for about 5 years, and Southern California is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. Yeah. But I prefer Northeast Florida.
I would trade some of the humidity for
sure. Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
you're not wrong there.
All right, so because you're still not in real estate yet.
Nope.
you come here, or you're still stay-at-home mom?
Still at home with the girls. We never had family around us, so I had whatever job I had to do. I worked at TPC Sawgrass for just in the clubhouse for spending my own money, because this is what, as an actress, I did for many years, and just met wonderful people and worked there for 7 years, did all the tournaments, and the connections I made through that actually have served me in
just sort of like a part-time type of thing.
It was
event type of
yes,
gigs.
And it was, hey, I can only work when my ex-husband is not traveling,
right?
And they're like, okay, done. I was like, oh, really? Okay. Right. So no, I credit that. I mean, when I was going through my divorce and starting real estate, I had to really dig in. So I was dual career for a while because I had to be while I was ramping up real estate.
So what is your first taste of? Was anyone else in the family have been in real estate before? Obviously,
no,
I think what was your first taste of, like, hey, maybe I should be a real estate agent?
Well, I think I will give some credit to my ex-husband, because he actually told me many years ago, you should really go into real estate. We used to go to open houses for fun when we were looking for a potential home in Georgia. I had an affinity for it, and I really enjoy. I'm pretty good at staging, those kinds of things. So I've always been interested in it, but it was never really the right time because my girls were small. We didn't really have any help, and I mean, real estate is not, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not you have to be ready to go on a dime. You get a text, you get a phone call. And so your kids need to be, if you're there by yourself with your kids, they need to be pretty self-sufficient in order to make that jump. So the age was such that they were much more independent, and so I could, my oldest was old enough to watch my youngest, and so. Yeah.
So I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions of people getting in the business and people who are not in the business is when you're in our real estate world, whether you're doing loans or you live your business, you are your business. Even though I work for Planet Home Lending, it's still me. If it's Saturday afternoon, you call me, or Sunday afternoon, you call me, and a real estate agent needs help or a customer needs help, like, hey, can I get financing? I want to make an offer. You got to take the call.
Yeah.
And the same, it's a feast or famine thing. Monday and Tuesday, no one may call you. But you got to be prepared. It's Sunday afternoon. You might get 3 calls from people who want to list their house because they just watched the news.
100% true.
Yeah.
And my girls will sometimes, complain. Oh, Mom, you're always on the phone. You're always working. And I say, but you like nice things. And I have 2 girls with all the makeup and all the products and all the clothes and we're getting close now where we're thinking college. We're thinking, so Mom has to work.
Got to get your nails done. That's the thing that blows my mind now. I don't remember when I was growing up how important it was for my female high schoolers to get their nails done. I guess they were getting their nails done, but now it's a thing. Now it's like
$60-$70 to get, this. No.
Yeah.
But realistically, it does. It takes a lot of money. And so your schedule is, you have to be available. And I pride myself on being available and being extremely timely and communicative. And so whenever someone needs me, I'm within reason. If it's, midnight, 1 a.m., no thank you. But
were you able to, because I think one of the important things, especially someone thinking about becoming a real estate agent, maybe they're getting their license right now. Did you have an opportunity to, or did you search out some agents or meet some agents? Because there's a lot of agents, obviously, Ponte Vedra,
100% I did.
There's one every other door, I'm sure. But to really get an idea of how the business works.
Yes, I did. Because I'll tell you what happened when I was looking for a job. We knew the writing was on the wall and I was going to have to be on my own. And I talked to my dentist at the time and told him, I'm looking for work, looking for a job. I need to, and he said, well, you should be my office manager. And I shadowed a dentist office manager and I had nightmares. I was like, absolutely not. I could not do this. I am not going to code. I am not going to no, because I would do something wrong and someone wouldn't get paid and that would not be good. And I'm not someone who's in front of the computer all day long. No. So after my cold sweat, I was like, okay, something else, something else. Oh, wait a minute. And that's when my ex-husband said, well, duh, real estate. And so I did. I had friends who were realtors, and I interviewed 3 or 4 of them. Bought them a coffee.
Before you even got your license?
Before I got my license. And I said, this is what I am thinking about doing. Would you recommend, and can you tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly? And, I'll never forget some of the responses I got. So one of them said, oh, Michele, you would be so good at this, but you'll never sleep again. Like, it is very stressful. It is, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, that's good. And then another one said, well, it's great, but just know that for the first year, you're probably going to pay more than you'll make. I was like, oh, God, I don't know about this. And so, people were very forthcoming. And it takes a minute to ramp up. The people who go into it and think that they're going to make money their first year, I did. I really did. I said, oh, that's too bad that happened to you. And I'm sure it will be different for me. But it wasn't. I didn't have a deal my first 8 months.
I'm curious about the person who, obviously talked about a lot about the stress and so forth, which there is, not to discount that.
Yeah.
But with your background of, because I imagine your theater background goes until you were young.
Yes.
The stress of memorizing your lines and performing.
Yeah.
Versus the stress of being a real estate agent. Compare that for us.
Well, so as a realtor, I feel like my responsibility is to just always be the calm in the storm. And transitions are hard, even on the best day. Like, moving and just closing up one chapter and starting another one, it's always going to be fraught with, a lot of nervous energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of all of those things. So I really, really pride myself on just keeping everybody, talking people down off the ledge. You have to put on your therapist, little cap, and then you have to and it's, I've been through it, and, getting divorced and selling one house and moving into my little house that I'm in now, like I went through that. And so I really am very, very strategic on helping people to navigate that, like with as little of the craziness as possible. And so because of that, I kind of take on a lot of the craziness, you know? So,
right.
But yeah, it's not lost on me that these are very big events for people, and it's a lot of responsibility, and it's something I take really seriously.
Well, it's just putting that, as I'm sure when you're going out on stage or even just doing voiceovers, it's game time. You're only as good as your last performance.
Yep.
And you don't want to blow that. Yep. And there's a level of stress to that. And then obviously, when you care like you do, because that's why, that's ultimately one of the key cornerstones of your success as a real estate agent, and understanding the importance of these moves. Hey, I got to get this person because that person's moving out, and then they're buying out. There's this whole transition going on the day of closing.
Dominoes, yep.
Yeah. And that it's game time, and there's a stress to stepping up and performing. Mm-hmm. Of course, when if you speak in front of people, as at some point you got to say what the, and and go, right? Yeah. There's
exactly.
enough. You have your little moment of whatever it is, and then it's like, hey, it's game time. I gotta go because it's just it's time. It's kickoff, so we gotta go. So just so you spoke to some different agents. I would imagine from different brokerages.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The importance of choosing the right brokerage. This is a point I make on every show that I can, because I have seen, we know there's a huge failure rate in real estate.
Massive.
I think there's a certain percentage. I don't know whether that's 5, 20. I don't know what percentage it is that fail, is because I believe they've chosen the wrong brokerage for them at the get-go. Because some need a little bit more. There's some people that can survive everywhere. They're going to figure it out because that's just who they are. Yes. They've already got a personality. They already got a personality. They're just going to make it work no matter what. They're going to fight through any obstacles. Where others run into obstacles and there's not really that mentor or coach there to get them up. What made you choose your brokerage? What things that were important to you to fit your business? How you thought you were going to run your business?
You go into it and you really have no idea, right? You don't have a crystal ball. You don't know. But one of my friends, Catherine, who got me into the business, she was the one who said, get ready to have sleepless nights. She was with Keller Williams and just had glowing things to say about that brokerage, that particular brokerage. And it was Mark Dilworth that I had met with at Keller Williams. And, I think what I liked about them was that they really focus on growing you quickly, trying to give you a really solid base of information. And they do have mentors that you can kind of connect with and have accountability partners. I'll never forget when I was in like the beginning classes after getting my, you would have this accountability, and there would be a list on the chalkboard of what you did.
What activities?
Yeah, what successes you had that week. And you were like, oh, I really want to make sure I have something to put up there, you know? So they're very faith-based, and that can, it's not in your face and they don't want to convert anybody, but it just means that they really want to put people first and then your business. And I did really like that. It's a great atmosphere. It's just a great group of people, and they were all so like supportive and so celebratory whenever you had anything positive that would happen. They were just, and so I just felt like I had so many cheerleaders there. And at this point, a lot of brokerages may want to chat and say, you think you want to go here, you think you want to go there. And there are bells and whistles, and there are things that you're like, oh, that's kind of neat, and oh, well, that would be nice. But ultimately, what I always tell everybody is that I'm not looking to go, I'm horrible with change, and I'm not looking to go and make any big changes at this point. But we always have conversations. You have to have the conversations.
Well, one of the other things I've seen is, or I can understand that's going on out there. Of course, the brokerages change as time goes on. It actually could be the same person running the show, but who knows, over time they just get tired or just get so in a rut that they're not moving and staying in front of their agents.
Yes, yeah.
And the importance of, because we talk about Keller Williams, which I think is great. There are a lot of new agents, but you certainly every office has a little bit different culture.
A little different dynamic, a little different culture. So I would recommend to someone who is starting in the business to align yourself with a brokerage that is going to have really solid training for you, because I think the training is, if you're like most people, you're going to need to know certain things to be successful in this business. So choose a brokerage that is going to have a really good foundational training for you, mentorship opportunities, those kinds of things. And then ultimately make sure it's a culture you feel comfortable with. So I would sit down with at least 5 and just kind of get the feel for.
Off the top of your head, just think of 2 or 3 like really important like questions, open-ended questions really they really should be investigating and asking.
Yeah, because you're interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you.
Yeah.
So I would ask questions like, if I do all the right things within 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years, what can I expect, my business to look like?
Right.
There are definitely stages to your career in real estate. So what types of things can you provide to me that are going to make me the most successful agent I can be? What kind of accountability will you have in front of me so that I am held to certain standards, because I know that the fail rate is so high.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of things that I would ask, because I have talked to other agents who are like, I don't really have anybody that's talking to me about, what's going on in the business, and I don't have, and especially, in the last year and 2 years, there have been so many changes in our industry. And so you need to make sure that you have access to everything that is constantly changing and understand it fully, and have training to back that up. I mean, super important changes that are going on, legal changes that are going on, and you just need to always make sure that you're on top of that.
When you were having, I think you said you talked to like 4 or 5 agents before you even went and took your initial class.
Yeah.
was the question about the brokerage and what was going on at their brokerage, why they just because I asked this question because I think so many fail. Some are jumping out because they see stuff like Real and they're looking at the Split or EXP or Florida Homes, or they're more cloud-based brokerage. LPT is another one, versus the brick and mortar, the Keller Williams, the Caldwell Bankers, and so forth.
So for me, and that is, I think, that might be why younger agents sometimes choose the cloud-based, because they're very comfortable with technology. They think they are. They think they are, but they certainly are more than I was. Right, I was like, oh my God, like there's these little, virtual people that, you walk into their office and you have a virtual, and I was like, this is like, I need an actual person, I think, But some people thought that was like super cool, and that's I wanted someone that I could meet with face to face. I wanted somebody that I wanted a place that I could go to and have that sense of community and have that sense of, I think that was really important for me.
Well, you're a communications person. You like to communicate.
Bingo.
But how important? Yeah, I mean, I guess the point I'm driving is, and you can speak this now, you've been in the business long enough, you've seen many come and go already. The importance of that choice, whether you're one of those persons might go with a Real or an EXP, and you can fly. It might just work out perfect. Yeah. Maybe there's a local group that you can resonate. Because I do think one of the downfalls is many agents feel like they're on an island, and if you don't have, maybe you can survive because you have 3 or 4 other Real agents that you guys are communicating with and leaning on each other and going to each other's brokers' opens and all that kind of thing, and talking the war stories that we do in business, and where there's others who like to be able to go in that office. And when they have the meeting and be able to talk with 20, 30 people sitting around the room sharing those stories.
I think the most important thing is it's got to be a personal decision. It's got to be something that you are comfortable with. But the key is to have people. Like I have 5 people on speed dial all the time. And I think that they have me on speed dial as well. And it is, oh my gosh, what would you do? XYZ happened. Or I've never come across this. What do you make of this? And we're each other's people, and that's important.
Because they're showing proven success. They make your 5 because they're actually at your level or maybe even above.
They're out there, they're doing it, they're doing the same things I am. And
You have a lot of people on your speed dial, and it's great to associate, but the people you're talking about, just for the audience listeners, these are people, and I can probably guess a few people in the Keller Williams circle that probably are on that list, but these are people that are producing that some of them you strive to be like, or kind of, following, in their footsteps, watching what they're doing marketing-wise, whatever.
Absolutely.
It may be.
And the first time I got a call from someone who wanted to use me to ask what I'm doing because they saw my success, was like, whoa, that's cool. I like that. That's nice. So I'm getting, more people that are coming to me and asking me for mentorship now, which is a really, a nice feeling. So.
Yeah. 100%. One of the things I bring up the book Grit. If you've listened to any of my shows, I bring it up regularly. Grit by Angela Duckworth, which if you haven't read it, it's a good one. You should get it. She does a TEDx talk too, so if you want to pull it up on YouTube, you can pull up her TEDx talk. But a lot of agents, you have to have grit to be in this business.
Oh God, yeah.
You as a single mom, you have a huge amount of grit just right there. But the grit in real estate, and I break it down to 3 different things. I call it my LLC. And that's, you've got to love it. You got to be able to laugh about it.
Oh, yeah.
And then what are you doing? Consistency.
So true. Yeah.
Tell us why you love real estate.
You know what? I really feel, I was just telling someone this the other day. So when I did voiceover, I would pray for like a pharmaceutical ad. Like I would be like, oh, that would just be the end all be all. That would be so amazing. It's on TV all the time. You just get,
because you're getting paid every time it plays.
Every time it plays. And, it wouldn't matter at the time what it was for, what it was hawking, what it was, it was just like, oh, if I could get one of those. And I think to myself, what if I had gotten one of those just crazy big ones, and it had been for something that people don't need, that in fact are, now it's in litigation because it was bad for you and it was other. And so,
it's all your fault because you told them about it.
I said, trust me, this is great. So now I feel like what I do impacts lives so much more. Now, as a performer, I was like, oh, I'm giving people joy. It was a nice feeling. You're up on stage, you're like, people are smiling, they're laughing, they're being affected.
Right.
That was a really nice thing. In real estate, I have this very real impact on the families that I help. And it's a tremendous responsibility, and it's humbling, and it's a gift. And I absolutely love being the person that can kind of walk them from this point to this point and get them there safely and get them there unscathed. And it's just, so that part, I have a servant's heart, and that part is absolutely phenomenal. I also love it because I do get to be creative. I do get to be, I get to call on these gifts and these, transferable skills that no one else could use in the corporate world. But in real estate, I can use them. I can be, I call it show ready. You are show ready whenever I have a listing, like that listing is show ready if anybody goes to see it. It is not, you will never find, and I shouldn't say never, you will rarely find a listing of mine where you're going to have to go in, you're going to have to turn on the lights, you're going to have to do it is absolutely show ready, so that when someone walks in, if I'm not there with a glass of champagne, it's very unusual. But if I'm not there, it's at least going to be, you're going to walk in and it's going to feel like home. It's not going to feel like, an empty place that you have to kind of, so that's, I love creating experiences, whether it's for a buyer or a seller. I'd like it to be something that people aren't going to forget.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that people want your personal taste. That's sort of, you're pouring that on to them a little bit, getting a house ready. But now you've been doing enough years, your professional recommendations, people are listening to you and taking your advice, and then being successful with that advice is always obviously a great compliment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the second part is laughter.
Yeah.
All right. So I think
you have to laugh or you'll cry.
Yes, you have to be able to laugh. Give us a situation, and this is where laughter comes into my vision of grit and how I see it in my life, that I look back now and there's times, whether it was something I did when I was 18 years old or 28 years old or 38 years old, something stupid I did, or just some setback where I really felt I was, fell on my face or whatever. Mm-hmm. But today we laugh about it, whether we just personally think about it and laugh about it, or we're telling the story at a cocktail party. Oh man, when I was really stupid as a kid and I did this. Mm-hmm. Tell us a real estate situation that you've had in the last 4 years that really kind of punched you in the gut a little bit and like really made you question or even sweat out, like, am I going to be able to give these people this great service? But then you ended up turning it around, and today you laugh about it or talk about it at a cocktail party.
Well, I mean, I will go back to my first year in real estate. My first year and a few months was COVID. Mm-hmm. And I did not have listings because I was new and people weren't, none of my friends or family were selling houses that could say, well, you're here, we'll let you do it. So I had buyers. Because nobody else wanted buyers, because you would plan to see 10 houses and 6 of them would be off the market by the next day when you were going to see the houses, or
somebody wouldn't let you in because of COVID.
Oh, I mean, all the things, right? And if someone went in and saw it and it was like, this will do, which was basically during COVID, if you found a house that was just, maybe okay, you put an offer on it because it was going to be gone tomorrow. Right. So these are the people who are selling and moving now, by the way. But I had a client in California and we put offers on, I went and did virtual showings for them for several houses, and we put in, I think it was 4 or 5 offers on different houses. And we thought we were giving these amazing offers, and I look at it now, and the last straw, he was like, all right, this is it. If we don't get this house, we're just gonna stay put. This is it. Let's do an escalation clause. Let's put an obscene number on it. This is the one. If it's not this one, we're just done.
Yeah.
So, made the offer, and of course we did get it, and it went up to the very top of the escalation clause. I mean, it was just insane.
Yeah.
He's there now. He loves the house. I'm so happy. But at the time, I was like, okay, now we got the house. Now he has to see it. Now he has to come and see it. We closed on it before he ever even stepped foot in the house.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was
stressing that out.
Yeah. So that was one where you just had to kind of, with every loss of a house, you just had to kind of, you were more crying than laughing at the time, but now we're able to look back and go, oh my gosh, can you remember what it took to get to that final
Well,
house?
I think there's a little stress there that a lot of people don't realize in that case, because here he took your professional opinion. Mm. This is the house. You put the escalation clause, so he's paying more than asking. Mm-hmm. He gets the house. He hasn't even seen it yet. Mm-hmm. And if he shows up and he doesn't really like it, mm-hmm. Most people say, well, he closed on, he signed it, it's his, so that's his problem.
Yeah.
But if you have any care in what you do,
like,
that hangs on you.
Yeah, would have been terrible. So I knew it was an amazing house, so I was pretty sure he was going to love it. But yeah, those kinds of things are kind of crazy. The craziest thing that's ever happened is that I was working with a gentleman and his wife, someone that I met at TPC actually, and they were up from Boca 3 times with me looking at houses. This was the final time they were going to come and look, and they were no-shows. And I was texting him and calling him, and I just couldn't figure out why.
Because they're supposed to meet you at a house at a certain time or something?
Yeah, they were supposed. Well, we were trying to figure out what our plan was, and ordinarily we would have everything sort of anyway. Ultimately, a week later, I still had not heard from them. And I was sending them messages like, if you've changed your mind and you're not moving here, it's okay. Just let me know.
Yeah.
I Googled his name because I was getting worried. And legit, he is a missing person. Still has not been found. Went out for a walk that morning, never came back.
Him and his wife?
No, his wife, and this is the thing, I never communicated with his wife. I always communicated with him. I don't even have her phone number. But I talked to the detective like every month for a year saying, anything? Oh my gosh, anything? Yeah. Literally disappeared into thin air.
I want to ask this question a little more directly because, you grew up in acting and so forth. It was something you had a passion for, obviously, and still have.
Yeah.
Communicating, and I think as people define communicating, whatever, it was natural for you. And obviously you took it and made money from it. Your voice or whatever you type of thing. I imagine, though, in all those years of you doing it professionally, you took some different trainings, listened to different people, whatever, to improve your craft. Mm-hmm. Tell us, when you're working your business today, you may not even realize it because it's just natural. It's ingrained in you. Mm. But some of the things that you do that may separate you from another agent because of your communications passion and background. Yeah.
So I think one of the things that I am very comfortable doing is walking someone through on a video, walking someone through and talking about the home and talking about I will do videos with some of these young kind of hip videographers. So not young and hip myself. But they make the video very young and hip and just visually striking, just really cool. And I am very comfortable because I used to do those kinds of, training films or, commercials or whatever, where I would be walking and talking and doing I did that. So it came very natural to me. And so when I do these video shoots, the videographer is always like, that was one take. That was great.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. And they're always just kind of like, whoa, okay, I had a lot of time blocked off for this, but I think we're done.
Right.
So I think that's a really nice benefit, is that I have that sort of in my back pocket. I thought I would do more like voiceover for my own things. I thought I would be in the studio and just kind of do it. Hasn't really worked out that way, and maybe I still will incorporate that. I did start a YouTube channel that I thought, oh, this is right up my alley too. I just don't have time to do it now. I wish I had the time or a virtual assistant that could just kind of throw those together.
Next week, I have a guest on She's actually local here.
Yeah.
She has 60,000 YouTube followers.
Yeah.
She's doing real estate on it. You should make sure you tune in to that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I did like the first few. I think the one that has the most views was why not to move to Ponte Vedra Beach. and then it's faux reasons why not to move there, but it's really about what a great place it is.
Right.
And so I thought, oh, this is great. I would love, but I just got into the intricacies and making sure the video looked perfect, and it's just too time consuming, so I didn't really do it. But that was, things like that come naturally to me. The other things that come really naturally to me, I think that do set me apart a little bit, is that I see things and I figure out how to incorporate it into my business. So the little things that I do for my open houses or my showings.
Yeah, how did we said that in the open, I actually, when I was reading your signature luxury open houses. Define that.
So, I mean, I usually have some sort of I've scaled back on the big spread of, food or treats or whatever, because a lot of times people don't. Yeah, people don't partake. I will always have some kind of a specialty mimosa going on for those that want to partake for that. But mainly it's the little things that I do. I have a coloring page for the kids that come in that's of that house, and then they can color it in, and they can sit there and color while the parents go and look. So I do little champagne bottles that they can take with them that have a picture of the house on them and the address and my phone number, but they're really kind of elegant and pretty. I have cookies that have the address and the actual front door of the house. And
now, you're not doing this for every one of your listings.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Even the $300,000 or $400,000.
Well, the $300,000 or $400,000 ones, it depends. I just recently sold one that was definitely a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
I mean, it was built, and it was a friend of mine. It was her in-laws that had passed away. And so this was definitely wall-to-wall pink carpeting, and I mean, it was original from 1978, I think, and a great little house. But something like that, the most appropriate, for that
champagne glasses.
Yeah. So, for those, I just made sure that they had all of the information, and I did photos that showed the house after a renovation,
what it could look like.
And so for that's really specific, something that I can do. And I think that made the difference. As people were scrolling, it was like, oh, that's what it looks like. Ooh, that could use a little, oh, well, that looks nice. So that
talk about that a little bit on what you're using to do that, because I think, being on the lending side, and we do renovation loans. Mm-hmm. And, I was talking with Julianne Grant Johnson last week. She does a lot of VA, and oh, hey, there's agents out there that won't put VA as a possible loan option because I think there'd be problems. VA has a renovation loan.
Right.
But when you take it to the level that you're doing, where you're saying, yeah, I realize this kitchen, probably needs to be redone, and they don't have the money to redo it or whatever, but here's what it looked like could be redone. And I imagine, do you get some broad numbers too?
I do not do the broad numbers. That's a little beyond my scope. And I think people who are looking at homes like that in general are investors who kind of know, they're like,
they know it's going to cost to redo the kitchen. Yeah.
The people who are smart, who would buy that house and fix it up for 2 years for themselves and live in it, and then maybe sell it or keep it. Those are the people that tend to probably need a little bit more of an insight of what that might run them. But that's such a smart investing strategy. But I hire photographers to go ahead and create those images for me, and I think it's worth the investment, and I think they look a lot more realistic. And I know that there are some AI things that you can use that will do that for you that might not be exactly spot on. So I don't know. That's the things that I tend to just trust the pros
if
to do.
If you're doing, you're out there, now Nocatee is new, but Ponte Vedra is not. Right. And there's homes in Ponte Vedra where people have moved on, have been renovated in who knows how many decades.
Yes.
And you, I'm sure, as any agent that's shown any amount of homes, have, if you had a microphone listening to some of the people walk through, oh, is this room big enough for a king size bed?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I don't like the color of the paint, and so they're not interested in it.
It's hard to have a vision sometimes, so it's really key to help people with that vision. And there are businesses out there. There's a guy that I work with, and he runs a company called Renovation Sales, and he will go into those listings and he will update them, and you can pay at closing. so that they look, because right now there's a lot of inventory out there. When I started, if you would look at how many homes were available in Nocatee, it was 9 homes in all of Nocatee. And now there's 360 some odd. And some of those are the new construction for the remaining couple of communities. But I mean, that's a lot. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So in Ponte Vedra Beach, there are more listings than there have been in, probably years. And if it's not scroll worthy, right? If people don't stop on it and start scrolling through the photos, like you're
gonna
lost,
get showings,
right? Yeah, you're not going to get showings. So you're going to have something. I'm a firm believer right now in staging. Even if it's soft staging, you use their furniture and you have someone who is a professional. I help stage some houses myself just with, some things that I've learned to do from the stagers in town, but legitimate staging where people are coming in and they're creating sort of the scenarios, the vignettes, the looks, it's a feel.
The buyers want turnkey right now.
Yeah, and if it's not turnkey, it has to look like it can be. So I think that, or it has to look like, all we need to do really is change the wall color in here and maybe do, I just think, and it is my job to, especially if I have out of town buyers, I walk them through a property. I do personal tours. I know they've got the videos that are sleek online. I know they have maybe the video 3D walkthrough that sometimes can be like, oh my God, I can't get out of this room, it's very hard to navigate sometimes. So I will go and I will do as many virtual tours as it takes, and I will come in and I will say, look what you could do here. This is, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. I just try to give people a little bit of the vision of what it can be if it's not already, amazing.
Let's transition. Let's really talk shop and hopefully share some things that you've learned. Actually, we never got to the C part, the consistency part. We went love and laughter.
Yeah.
What are you doing consistently in your business right now? Do you feel that moves your business, that you have to do, whether it's something daily or something you do weekly, but that really you feel moves the needle in your business?
Daily, I would say I am on my hot sheet daily. I am reaching out. I have buyers right now who would love this thing, and it's not out there right now. So weekly, I am putting word out on Facebook groups, word out to specific agents I know that might have, those things coming, or working with someone who. And so I am consistently, in fact, I may be annoying because I will just do you have any oceanfront right now? Do you have any oceanfront? Do you have any oceanfront? Because I have someone who really wants to buy oceanfront, but it has to kind of be within these parameters, and it's not on the market currently. So I do those reach outs, constantly and now people are coming to me and they are saying, hey, I've got this with this, appeal to your buyer, or I have this. So, a lot of real estate gets done that no one ever sees. There's a lot of real estate deals that happen and you don't see it unless people are putting it in as comp purposes in the MLS. And so if you have someone who is like, find me this unicorn, a lot of times those unicorns are never going to be advertised. So you have to consistency with that.
How important is that in your business, especially because I think, I'm going to say a handful just to use a word, but they're dealing in that true luxury market, the Ponte Vedra Beach, Jacksonville, the oceanfront, and then there's some select communities that obviously are there, that where you're saying this business that's not out there, but you learn quickly who are the players in this world, because you need to reach out and say, hey, do you have something, or maybe you have something coming on the market soon. In the years you've been doing it now, the collaboration that you have with them, and kind of, I assume some of these people are part of your 5.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, to your point, the consistency and just making sure that you are available when people are asking you the same things. It's this open communication, and it's the idea that there's enough success for everybody, and that I may be competitive, but I'm competitive more with myself than with any other agent, because I feel like there's room for success for everybody. And if somebody ever asks me for help for something, just the other day, someone was considering making a change and realtors. And I went to see the property, and I did some, investigative work, and I sent him pictures, and I said, here's why I think it's not selling. And I said, if you don't use me, feel free to just take those things and give it to your, the person that you decide that you'll stay with, and use that. But these are the things that are, I think dinging your listing where people might not even consider making
it's
an
not
offer.
getting any action.
So I like to think it's just always doing the next right thing. Just do the thing that's going to help somebody. And I know someone who just recently got into the business, and he said, my mother's friend wants me to find this home for her, but she doesn't want to use me as an agent. She wants to, she wanted him to do something where it wasn't necessarily going to benefit him. And I said, you do it. I said, you do that, because then when she is going to need you legitimately, or one of her friends is going to need you legitimately, she's going to say, oh, he was so helpful to me, and he didn't even really get, you do the next right thing, so that that comes back to you at some point, and it will.
Yeah. That goes through everyone's mind, and the only thing you can do is give. And what's the phrase I used it the other day? If you love something, let it go. If it doesn't come back, you hunt it down and kill it. I'm a huge believer in open houses, as you know, and I try to make them really special and memorable, but I am not in your face, and I will not chase you after an open house. I will send you a thank you for coming. I do this cute little thing with my little, picture in front of the house or the kitchen or whatever, and I say, thank you for coming. If you have any questions or would like to make an offer, call me. And then I don't continue to chase them down, because I think if they want the house, they're going to reach out to me. Right.
And why did I bring that up? I brought that up because open houses, oh, for Pete's sake, I lost it. Just that open houses are, I know, they're memorable. They're a chance for me to just establish rapport, relationships with somebody. Right now it's really tricky because people are just trying to feel out houses, and open houses are a great way to do that, because they don't necessarily want to align with a buyer's agent yet. They're just
use up their time because they're really not hot at the moment.
Yeah. And so I had someone who called me in, I think maybe March, and they said, Michelle, we met you last year at an open house. And I was like, wow, which house was that? And they were like, and they gave me the address, and I said, oh yes, you were from, Cincinnati, and you were they remembered me for a year, kept my information for a year, and said, we are ready now. We weren't quite ready then.
Was this one of the special open houses? You had the champagne
Those are all my open houses.
Oh, right.
It was a high, it was like a 1.4 house, I think it was. But I mean, I did the same thing for my $700,000 house that just closed. It's a feeling when you walk in. I tell people, a house feels differently when you have a glass of bubbly in your hand. It hits a little different.
So I want to try to get through everyone here in this next 10, 15 minutes about how your business has evolved. Because I imagine what you're doing, the market conditions obviously have completely changed from the the COVID time, 21, and now we're in with all the listings that are out there today. But how you evolved your business, but to try to express to those agents who are listening, what are you doing on a daily basis? I think some of them get lost on what they're supposed to do every day.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't have that brokered. It's like, hey, this, if you don't have this to do, you should be doing that.
Yeah, if no one's cracking the whip, then, are things getting done? Yeah,
you're headed out to the beach or whatever. Tell us a little bit of how you started your business, because it sounds like you had some pretty good success early, although many people would say, well, it was 2020, you stuck a sign in the yard and you had multiple listings.
Oh, yeah, right? But that wasn't me, remember? Because
you didn't have any listings. You had the buyers.
Yeah.
So, but, tell us how you evolved and how you created and evaluated what you're doing today on a daily basis, weekly basis, to set your schedule, to make sure you obviously are spending face time with your buyers and sellers or whatever but you're obviously prospecting as needed. So, I mean, I will tell you how I ramped up, I think, as
quickly as I did, and it was not a big money maker, but I got my foot in the door, and then in another door, and in another door. And that was by offering to do, well, first off, I reached out to a friend of mine who was in real estate, and at the time during COVID just had her hands full with all the listings and did not want to spend the time with the buyers because they were a headache. You know, you had to put in all of that time, all of that effort, all the showings, all the offers, all the, and so I said, hey, any buyers you don't want to work with, send them to me. I'll give you the referral, and, you know, we'll go ahead and do that. And so I did that for a handful of her buyers. I did not, you know, I gave 30% to my brokerage, 25% to her, and then I had this, but that was, I like to say,
you got your feet wet. You got some at-bats.
50% of something is better than 100% of nothing, right? So 100% worked with buyers that nobody wanted to work with. And the other thing that I did was I called up everybody that had houses that I wanted to list or would have liked to have listed. I said, I'll do your open house. Let me do your open houses. So I did open houses, and there were open houses where someone came in, they ended up buying it, and I represented them. So those are kind of the strategic ways that I.
How did you evolve your open house though? So you started doing these open houses. Obviously, it started to clicking. I'm going to make this an event.
Yeah.
Because I imagine you didn't do that from day one. I imagine you evolved that.
No, not really. No, I just kind of looked at what other people were doing, and that's kind of what I was doing. And then ultimately I was like, oh no, I think we can make this really
special,
hot. Yeah. So I always have music playing. I always have it's always a feel when you walk into, I think, one of my open houses. So I did open house after open house. So I still do that. But I will tell you that the business that I have gotten from open houses is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. One, a more recent listing, I had 4 couples that came to the open house. All of them wanted to buy the house. All of them had to sell a house first. And one of the couples was so wanting to buy the house that they were willing to try to do a bridge loan, try to do all of the things, and it was going to cost them so much money. So they're like, no, we got to sell our house. And I said, well, it's kind of a race, to see who can sell their house first. And then they asked me if I could list their house. And so I listed their house in Milano Beach, and we sold it in 2 weeks.
And then sold them the new one.
Went under contract on that one. And so those 3 basically transactions came from one open house. And then one of the other couples used me to also sell their house and then buy another house. So open houses are so fruitful if you go in and you are very genuine with people, and you are not, and people just say, well, we felt like we could trust you. And that is because I am not a pushy salesperson.
Are you doing any sort of unique marketing or anything to drive that traffic for those couple hours that you're there?
Well, I'm a Facebook queen. I just am out there doing pretty ads, things in the groups that I know that people are trolling to find potential houses. But that said, people use the Z word all the time for their open houses. They look on and they see how many open houses they can hit, and they plot it according to that.
How are you? Because I imagine, especially when you're in some of these higher end homes, they're really nice, and there are people who are just dreamscaping. Right?
Yes.
It's not actually something that they could ever, I'm going to say ever afford,
but
they could. How do you sift through those?
Well, the people that come in that just want to, and some people come for the food. I'm not kidding. Some people come in, and I've had...
Let's go out to Ponte Vedra and see some open houses because they got good food always.
There's this family. I've seen them at 3 of my open houses, and they're all like different price points. So I know that they're not necessarily, actually, maybe they're house hunting, but I don't think they're like really house hunting. And they come and the kids just eat, and they just following you on
Facebook and see, where's Michelle at this weekend?
And that is fun because you know what? One day they may want to buy a house, and then hopefully they will come and use me. But yeah, I think that I try as much as I can to, and this was something, even when I worked in the restaurant, for years and this is maybe the acting, maybe the communication, maybe like intuition, like I don't know. I just customized my service for whatever I intuitively thought they wanted. So, for instance, in a restaurant, here's the analogy. There's people that come in, they don't want to know anything about me. They just want their food. They want to chat with their, with their
guests.
Person. It's either a business meeting, it's a romantic thing, whatever. And then there are people that come in and they want to know everything about you. They want to know your story. They want to know everything about everything on the menu. They just want the attention and the communication. And then there are people who are somewhere in between. And it's kind of the same when people walk into the open house. Some people are like, I just want to look around. And you're like, oh, absolutely. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me, or all that information is up front. And then there are people who are like, oh, so tell me about this neighborhood, and tell me about this, and tell me about that, and tell me about this. So you just kind of customize what you're putting out there for the different people that walk in the door. I think there are people who I just ask questions, Phil Jones, like I like to ask.
What's your icebreaker though? 'Cause people come in and say, oh, hey, welcome. But to kind of maybe to see if they're going to open up, because obviously the person who interacts with you more probably is more likely either to possibly use you or is possibly actually really interested in the house.
So after, would you like a mimosa? I say...
That's an opening line.
I say, well, where are you now? Because then people are like, oh, well, we're renting, we're at the, we're doing this, we're trying to figure out the right area for our family, whatever. Oh, we're actually up north, we're just here, we're kind of looking for, our second home, and then when we retire, we want it to be, the last place we end up. So where are you currently? Where are you now? I know a lot of people say, well, what brings you in? And that gets people talking sometimes. But I like, if you find out where people are now, I feel like that organically leads to the next question, and then the next question, and the next question. So that's what I do. But oftentimes people come in and they just kind of spill it. And they're like, oh, my daughter sent me this house.
Tell a life story.
This, my daughter sent me this house, and it's, she thinks it's perfect, and, they live down there, whatever the case. So.
Where do you see right now most of your business coming from?
I would say it is partially open houses, partially it's social media, the fact that I'm out, and social media is so tricky for me because I don't want to be a braggy realtor on social media. Like, I'm just like, no, I just don't want to be like out there just...
They're closing $2 million, whatever.
Splashing. I very rarely put numbers on. I very rarely, I just try to tell the story of what happened, of, that family, so excited for this family because they wanted to do this, we were able to do this, and now they can do this.
Yes.
Those
people resonate with that.
Yeah. And
I was watching the lady I've got coming on next week who's got 60,000 YouTube followers, and that's how she's doing her business. Amazing. I was watching one of her videos, and I'm like, listen, guys, she's expressing, being very authentic, and just expressing, this is a situation, this is what's going on. She's educating and she's providing value and telling the story, not bragging about how she sold 3 homes last month or whatever, and how much they were or anything like that. It's just, I'm sharing information and she's rolling it off every day, and obviously people are listening to it.
Absolutely. And so that's where consistency, has definitely benefited her. And that's where my YouTube channel is not a YouTube channel that anyone knows because I'm not consistent with it. But the things you are consistent with are the things. And, the whole adage that if you want success, you do the things that other people don't want to do. And that is kind of how I run my business. People are like, ugh, open houses. I'm like, oh, good, an open house.
Would you say, because we know, 77% didn't even do a deal last year, but really, if you think about it, probably less than 5% of the overall actually probably did more than 10 or 12 deals or so, or actually making a living as a real estate agent and prospering that way, that those less than 5% is because they're doing a lot of things that others won't do.
I concur fully. So, but I will say this, because my business is not, I am not like a 50 to 100 deal a year agent. That is, I don't want to be, and I don't, because I can't give that same level of service if that's the number, the quantity that I'm dealing with. For me, I really try to limit myself to the number of deals that I know I can do with white gloves, because I don't want to win the award for the most transactions. I want to win the award for the best handled transactions, the happiest families. I want to win the award that says, and right now it's fortunate because the quality of my transactions and, the price tag of them is such that, it's strategic, but that is why I'm able to do a lower number and just do it a little bit more high touch.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have 10 listings at the same time. There's no way that I would be able to, and at that point then maybe I would have to look at trying to align myself with somebody, maybe do a team or something like that, but they would have to be like me, and they would have to be have that same sort of, I think, luxury.
Well, I mean,
feel.
some businesses cater to certain clientele, and you found that niche for you. What you do works for them. You resonate with that buyer or seller. Some of the buyers coming in the area, are you getting in this luxury market kind of inner market? Are you seeing getting clients from outside the area, and where are they coming
Outside the
from?
area, New Jersey, the ones that called me and said, "We're ready now, Michelle," from a year ago, that was Ohio, there's Chicago, there's California. So there are people that are migrating still to Northeast Florida. I think COVID kind of put us on the map. I feel like a lot of people didn't think of Northeast Florida as a destination prior to that.
Right.
I don't think people ever even had heard of Ponte Vedra Beach. And, Siri
Well,
still
it was an
wrong.
elite club. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I would say a very unique club, which I think is amazing. I'm trying to think of the island just north of us here in Georgia, Jekyll. Yeah.
Jekyll Island?
Yeah,
That's
Jekyll
Island Town? Yeah,
Yeah,
Jekyll Island.
yeah. And when you go on there and you hear the stories, like these people from these rich guys from New York would come down on a boat and in the early 1900s, before there was even power there and all. And you're like, where do these guys find? But those were elite clubs that they were forming. These guys would find these things. And I think Ponte Vedra.
I think golf had a lot
Right,
to do with
yeah.
it, because people knew that these, golf clubs existed, and that was kind of a draw for them. And they could still golf all year round, but they wouldn't necessarily have to deal with as many people as were in South Florida. So, yeah, I think that, but there are a lot of people who are already here.
Yeah.
And they are either renting or they are in a house that doesn't work for them anymore because maybe they bought it during COVID and, it just was something that they needed to get right away. And now, or, it's all the things, right? It's the divorce, what do they call it?
Death,
Diamonds,
divorce,
death, and So
the triple D, diamond,
these
divorce,
are the
death.
reasons that people, make the move
Right.
that they do. So a house isn't working for them anymore, or it's just, they're upsizing, they're downsizing, they're doing whatever. So
Are you? Well, I imagine. What a percentage right now are you getting? Because I imagine a lot of these luxury homes are being sold cash. I think it's the true evaluation, especially in this area. It's definitely probably not. Can't say nationally for sure, but 50 to 60% of the deals going on are cash.
Yeah. I would say the majority of mine have been cash, which is really, that's a blessing, because I think what's happened is that people who need to finance, they need to be, and this is something I'm sure that you utilize, is that the people that are financing homes either have to adjust the rate or adjust their expectations. So if people want to buy a house that they could afford 4 or 5 years ago, it's not the same conditions where they're going to be able to afford that house.
Right.
And that house probably has gone up, double in value if it's in this specific area. So I think what I really recommend for buyers and for sellers who are financing, and sellers who are looking at buyers that might not be able to be paying in cash, is that you got to do the rate buy downs. You got to offer it. You got to say,
because it's a buyer's market today anyway.
It's a buyer's market.
Get the seller to pay for that buy down. Yeah,
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. And as a buyer, I have my last couple of buyers that did finance we asked for that as, as part of our offer, is that, we need this amount to make it more affordable. Because people don't realize, right, that if you take that same amount off the price, it doesn't even move the needle.
Yeah.
But if you take it and you apply it toward that rate, then you've got like a $400, $500 difference in their monthly payment, right? So it's just...
No, I just worked one yesterday up for an agent, and it was for the first year would have been $500 less in payment. Yeah. And I think, most people feel that we're going to see a softening in rates. We've already starting to see a hint of it. Obviously, the Fed funds rate in September is like 80-90% that they're going to lower that, which changes the cost of money. And so if you're putting that away for 2 years, you got 2 years that hopefully within that 2 years the rates drop, which I think the expectation, and I think you would agree with this, or at least give us your overall. You don't have a lot of people financing. We get below 6%, it's going to become a seller's market again. You see 5.875 on a conventional 30-year fix. We have so many people in pent-up demand on both sides. Yes. Sellers who want to move, but the rate's not low enough for them to make that move. But with a lot of buyers over here just waiting to jump in.
Yeah, and, and I think right now it's a little bit the optics, right? So I'm in the 6s, I'm in the 7s, I'm in the, and it's daunting. It's very daunting. And so whatever you can do to get them down where they're comfortable, whether that's the rate buy down or they have to look at a lesser cost house. But people don't want to do that. So buyers don't want to do that. So you and
I are old school. There's too many people today who want to buy a home that like their parents have, but it's like, dude, you're 20, they're 50. They're probably on their second or third home, and you're trying to buy your first home. Yeah. You have to be a little more.
No, and you're right. And the people that have spent that and are in those homes, some of them are, they're scraping. They're scraping right now to make sure that they can still pay for everything. And everyone who 4 years ago, did their loan modifications, went ahead and got their lower rate, right? We have a lot of people who are sitting on a lot of equity in their houses. Yeah. And so those are the people that if they are selling and moving into something that they can buy in cash, that's like... Those are the people right now that are
because then interest rates no play in the game.
In selling. So
I've been recommending, and I've been trying to. I've expressed it to buyers, and I'm like, you right now, maybe you're going to take this higher rate if you don't negotiate a buy down, which sometimes it's a little bit over people's head when you try to explain that whole situation, or their fear is, oh, my rate's going to adjust. No, your rate really is here, but they're just going to pay the difference in the interest for you for the first 2 years, but. The reality is you can buy now, buyer's market, that rate goes below 6. I think healthy is somewhere in the high 5, 6%, a healthy interest rate. It's now it's going to flip to the seller side. And now where you're going to get 20 or 30,000 in a rate buy down or seller concessions or negotiate off the price, whatever floats your boat, that's gone.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, because you're gonna have more, and it's gonna drive up the price too. That's the thing. Like if people are on the fence now, the smart thing is to buy now while you have all this choice, and and most sellers are amenable to fixing things and to giving more concessions in selling their house. The ones that are really serious about selling. Now you have people who are there's two things, right? There's, do you want to list or do you want to sell? Because those are two very, very different things, right? So if you want to list and you just want to see what's that, you want to dip your toe in the water, you want to see how much.
If I get the right number, I'll sell it.
Yeah. And there are people like that, and they don't have to sell. And so by all means, if your house is that special and that spectacular, maybe you're going to get someone who just sold their house up in New York and they want to move down and they want to, and they've got this cash and they're like, oh, that's a bargain. Maybe. That's a big maybe. So if you want to sell, you definitely have to, be strategic about where you're pricing it, about how you're marketing it, about how you're, and then, so that's, do you want to list or do you want to sell? And then there's also, I had another one and it's gone. Isn't that terrible? If you list and sell, and then the other one was, it's gone.
All right, I'm going to give, I think a lot of agents, I'm going to use the word envy, but I'm going to say envy, but they look up to an agent that's had your success in this luxury market, which they say it's not a price point. To me, it's a price point. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
You know, if you're starting to deal with regularly, your average home sale is over $1 million, and you're starting to get, you know, some $2, $3, $4 million listings, that sort of thing in your portfolio in a year. When you're going in from a listing side, and I guess the first question is, do you find most of them actually will truly interview agents? Because I imagine obviously they get referrals too, but truly interview agents. But when you go in there, what are some, you think are some important things that market those people are doing? And then when you do win the actual listing, going in and getting that home ready, what are some of the things? Are you doing pre-listing inspections and so forth? Walk us through that process with the luxury, you know, 1.5 and up type seller.
Okay, so I remembered what it was.
Okay.
It was, God, it's gone again. It's when people say, is this a good time to buy a house? And you say, it's a good time to own a house. Always a good time to own a house.
Yes.
You know, the rest doesn't really matter. It's always,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
always a good time to own a house.
Right.
It's, you know, but anyway. So for those listings, first of all, when people call me and they say, you know, we want to sell our house, we'd love to talk to you about, I just assume I'm the only person that they're interviewing, and then it comes to light afterwards that they've talked to 5 or 6 other people.
Yeah.
I just assume it's like
You
they've
assume the
already
sale.
chosen me.
Yeah,
So I go in and I say exactly what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. I say, well, the first thing we're going to do is this, and then we're going to do this, and then this is how I am going to make sure that and I talk about it like I already have the job. And I mean, I've hired myself as people's realtors before when I know they're looking for a house. I just keep sending them things, and I'm just like, at some point you're gonna say, "Oh gosh, that's great," and that came from her. Of course, I'm gonna use her. I mean, this is like I just try to add value wherever I can. So,
Well, statistically, you have to have the confidence that you're doing great things, and you've done it before. And go in and do the presentation like these people, and because the average agent's walking in there statistically isn't going to do what you're going to do. And the way you do it.
I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
Because no one can do it exactly the way I do it. And
Right.
so I just have to say that the way I do it, I think, is successful and is going to add value. And then if the next agent that comes in, if there's a next agent, is going to present all the numbers and all of the statistics and, you know, their success rate and how many houses they've sold and
Blah,
how many.
blah, blah, blah,
this
blah.
is
Yeah.
this is that I can't compete with that. That's not me because I don't have 300 listings that I have sold. But I also don't want 300 listings in 4 years that I've sold.
Well,
right? 'Cause that
you're
would-
probably not competing against someone like that anyway, because they're successful in their own right. They probably do it like you
or
do.
they've been doing a really
Yeah.
long time,
Yeah.
right? And so, no, I think part of it when I go in and I talk to people, I think people like that I'm still kind of fresh and different, and
New
I still
ideas.
consider myself fresh because, you know, to this day I still kind of feel like I'm a new, you know, 50-something-year-old agent, you know, just like a teenager, you know. But I feel like I have a lot more confidence now because I've seen what I do works. So I go in and I get nervous because, you know, just before I would go on stage, I would get nervous. I'd be like, do I remember those words?
Make sure I say this.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's really about the relationship. So when you walk in the door, it's about asking the right questions. It's about finding out what is their why. Why do they want to move? We all know they want to sell their house. Why do they want to sell their house? What's important to them? Do they want to sell it really quickly because they have this to get to? Or can they take a little bit more time because actually, you know, they're waiting for this to happen? You know, finding out the reasons why, letting people talk about their house and what they love about it, letting them show you the things, walk you through the memories, walk you through, and some of them might have that, and some of them will be like, oh, well, this was not our forever house, and so we just need to get out of this one to get to that one. I'm sorry if I keep bumping this. But so I think it's personality. It's pointing out what you've done that's been successful, that's different. You know, when I go in to talk to somebody, like I said, I assume it's just me, and I say, well, this is what I'm going to do. I don't have 30 listings. I have you and a few others, and you get my full attention. And that is how I can be here for showings, pouring the champagne. That is how, I can be here doing these special touches for people to make it very experiential when they walk through the door. They experience your house. They're not just looking at your house, they're experiencing it. And I think it's important to just let people know that I think that that's a different way of selling a house. And other than that, it's just talking and just making sure you have personality.
So they hire you.
Yeah.
What are some things some general things that you do, especially with that price point of home? Because obviously prepping it for, obviously we know we're going to get a inspection going to come, because those are always tickets for buyer's remorsers to jump out, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing to make sure that when we get somebody on the line on their contract, we ain't getting out?
I think some people are fine with doing a pre-listing inspection. I think it's super smart to do, and other people will be like, I am fastidious in maintaining this house. There is nothing wrong with this house. Of course, an inspector's always going to find something that's their job. But I do think that that's a smart thing to do. But what I do is I walk through a house and I walk them through the house. First, I let them walk me through the house. Then I walk them through the house as a buyer. And I say,
good tip.
If you're a buyer and you're walking into this house, say this house is not your house, it's not your memories, it's not you're walking through, what would you think if you saw this? What would your opinion be, your impression? And because right now, the first impression is the only impression. Like they have too many choices. So you have to make sure when someone walks in the door that immediately, if there is a funny smell, if there is a wall color that is not for everybody, if
wallpaper.
And wallpaper is a big trend right now, and even some of the old wallpaper right now, people are like, that's cool, because everything old is new again. But I think that the things that you can guide people to do to make sure that they are seeing their house as the house is going to be seen by the people that want to invest a big chunk of money to buy it. And then the other things I think is that I really appeal to the people that I know are going to already have those buyers. I tell every seller I would love to bring you the buyer. And so I'm going to put it everywhere I can where those things, I'm going to use, Keller Williams luxury. We're going to get it in mansion. We're going to get it, and, we're going to get it in all the places where people are seeing your house and being exposed to it. If people are looking at a house in that price point in this area, they're going to see it. It's going to come up on whatever platform they're using to search. Right. So it's finding the agents that have those buyers typically and reaching out to them personally. It is putting it in these groups, these moving to Florida groups, these just specific realtor groups that you have, the networking groups, and then the groups that are just all about that area. And you are putting it out there so that people are like, oh, there's a new one. Oh, wow, that's pretty. Now, that's the thing. You have to have it looking really spectacular. So, yes, the staging, yes, changing some of the things that make it just more palatable to everybody. But then you have to really focus on delivering great photography, great video. Like, I don't skimp on that.
Yeah.
I make sure that I use someone that is going to make it glow.
Well, I've always said, the staging and the photography, that's your reputation. If someone Googles that house 3 years from now, your pictures may come up. So that's your billboard that's out there forever. Yeah. Tip that I picked up there, which some agents may do already but not actually word it the way you did, was walking your sellers through the house as if they were buyers and asking them what they would think about that. And I think people with an open mind, one, they're going to look at you as the agent who's doing it like, holy shit, your stuff, because not at 99 out of I would say 999,999 other agents wouldn't do that. 1 out of a million are going to do that. But you gain a credibility right there. You already have them. They already signed you, but now you're walking them through. They're like, we made the right decision.
Yeah,
Now they're they want to refer you because they feel like they just found their goddess to lead them to their unicorn.
Well, I mean, that's what you hope, and you're not. And sometimes you have to give a little tough love. Sometimes you do. Sometimes, because ultimately it's about success. Ultimately, it's about selling the house and accomplishing what they want to accomplish so that they can go on to do whatever they want to do. And if I'm helping them to purchase their next house, if it's in the area, then I'm going to do...
You're showing your
the same
attention
thing.
to detail.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing for them, representing them as the buyer when we're walking through the houses, and we're going to do the thing. So, I think it's... And, it's funny because I've had some people call me because they saw my open house signs every weekend for whatever it was, because I keep having them. Some agents will do it like the first weekend and maybe, one other weekend. I keep doing them because there's always fresh people. Like, I was always so impressed that there were always people coming. There were always people rolling through the door. And they were people that either maybe just moved there, or that was the weekend they could make it there and they didn't really want to, reach out to a buyer's agent yet. People right now are just kind of like, they don't want to necessarily, if someone has a buyer's agent, that they are very serious about, buying a house. And not everyone coming to the open house is. But I've had so many now that have come, and I had a house that just went under contract yesterday, and they had come to my open house on Saturday, and now we're under contract.
Nice.
So, I mean, I know that open houses work. Yeah. So I focus heavily. And this couple saw my signs. They lived in the same neighborhood, and that's why they called me. They were like, "We know that you hustle because we saw your signs every weekend. We saw your..." And I had another person, have me list a lot for sale in River Landing, and he was like, "You are a hustler. You hustle and grind." And I said, "Yes, I have teenage daughters. Like, this is what I do. This is I'm going to be selling real estate till I'm 90. I'm going to be in the walker showing people around. And, this is but thank goodness I really love it. And there are things, of course, that happen where you're like, oh my God, this business, like my friends and I, like the 2 of the 5 were constantly sending each other these memes, that are like, life in real estate, Right. It can be very challenging. But the key is when somebody says, "Michele, you made it so easy," that's like the highest compliment someone can give me, because it wasn't necessarily easy. Right. You
just made it look that way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the people who are like, oh, you're a realtor. Oh, you just sign things and open doors and you do. And I'm like, yeah, no. But the fact that someone thinks that it's that easy is a compliment.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Michele, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yay.
Anything you like to add here as I close out?
Oh, gosh, no. I mean, I think buckle up, because I do feel like there are things happening in the world, and there are things happening financially, and there are it's just one of those things where we just have no idea where life is going to take us. And so, if you are going to be buying or selling a house, make sure that you choose someone that can be, that voice of reason, that calm in the storm, because, I think that it's going to be really important going forward that you have someone 100%. That can just be...
Yeah, you actually several. I mean, I think for the agents out there who are still listening, stop by one of Michele's open houses and let's see what's these champagne glasses. I got to see this and get a cookie with the house on it.
I've had some people after showings, they've led their people through, and they've said as they leave the showing, they'll say, "I've got to up my game."
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.